Hi, I'm Madelyn, Meadow Brook's curator, and as I'm working from home right now, I wanted to tell you that this is not the first time that Meadow Brook has been through a pandemic. In October 1918, the first cases of the 1918 influenza pandemic came to Michigan. And this was an incredibly contagious and deadly flu, and the reaction was similar to how it's been with COVID-19 right now. They closed public places like theaters, schools, and churches, and they asked people to quarantine themselves at home as best as they could to protect themselves and everyone around them. One of the ways that I'm glad that we're very different to then is there's much more public spitting in 1918. If you've ever seen old photos with spittoons in businesses or on street corners or in bars, it was much more common, and they were rightly concerned that anyone who was ill, who was going to be spitting, that they were just going to be setting that flu out there. And they were also worried, even if no one was around when you spit, you might spit in some dust, and then that dust would get swept off the street and go into people's homes. So they're very concerned about spitting, so much so that in Detroit, the health commissioner actually put a ban on public spitting during the 1918 flu pandemic, and he also declared that if you were going to sweep the street in front of your business or your home, that you had to either sweep it right into the sewer or you had to burn it, which I don't really know how either of those protected anything, and I have no idea how you could burn dirt and dust. But anyways, the fear was very real with the spitting. A wonderful way that we are similar to then is that people volunteered to make face masks for the community. Now in Michigan, this was led by the Red Cross, and the head of the state division of women's work, which is what it was called, was Delphine Ashbaugh. She was John and Horace's older sister, a suffragette, and just an incredible woman, way ahead of her time, and really involved in a lot of different political and philanthropic groups in the state. Her husband was a Civil War veteran, and so when World War I arrived, she was very concerned with sending hospital gowns and bandages and face masks to men on the front line to help protect them. She also organized Christmas presents, which is, I think, a really kind of nice and thoughtful thing that she did as well when she was the head of the Red Cross. And she was also fundraising because they were having volunteers make these items, but they also needed money to send them and to help get the supplies that they needed. So when the 1918 flu came to Michigan, World War I was actually still raging. We were more than a month away from the end of the war, and it was actually had been spread among the soldiers first. So Delphine had friends and volunteers lead the committees to make face masks for the community here in Michigan, and she continued working for the men on the front lines. They really thought we need to help protect them during this time. Now, another group that everyone was very concerned with protecting and keeping from getting sick were the factory workers, because Detroit and the automotive factories here were incredibly instrumental to the war effort during World War I. The Dodge brothers supplied more than 13,000 ambulances and cars, their dependable Dodges, over to the front lines, and they were also making recoil mechanisms for a French artillery gun called the howitzer, which is a great story for another time. So as far as I can tell, none of the factories ever closed because they thought we really need to keep the war effort going during this time. So for the Dodge family, at least, things didn't really change too much. There was maybe a little bit of fear, some change in their routine, but it wasn't until 2 years later that the 1918 flu pandemic would change the Dodge family forever, and I will tell you about that story next time.